Moses Moody suffered a horrific injury against Dallas Mavericks this Monday, March 23rd, 2026. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at the knee injury Moses suffered, specifically a patellar tendon rupture, the anatomy behind this injury, mechanism of injury, treatment, as well as recovery time. This is unfortunately one of the most serious injuries an NBA player can sustain because the patellar tendon is such a key component of the knee's extensor mechanism. This allows an athlete to jump, accelerate, and stabilize during landing. So let's break this down. Let's break down when the injury really did happen for Moses. Here we see him driving back to the basket, and we're going to take a pause right here at when he's about to go in for this dunk. So knowing what the injury is, it's the patellar tendon ruptures, and these are most commonly occur when the quadricep muscle, which is going to be right here, the anterior or front part of your thigh. So during this specific movement, the quadricep is contracting eccentrically to control the knee flexion that is happening right here and to absorb the force from the ground. As the toe is on the ground, he's preparing to jump with that left leg and absorbing all that force the quadricep is doing. And this is the exact moment when that mechanism does fail. So typically the quadricep will produce enough force stored to forcefully bring the knee into extension in order to complete the jump. But as you see, as he tries to go up for the dunk, his knee basically buckles and does not complete that full extension mechanism. This all failing due to the injury he sustained prior to dunking the ball as recently described. So once again, if the load placed on the tendon exceeds the tensile strength, the patellar tendon can tear completely, separating that kneecap from the tibia, which is exactly what has happened with Moses Moody. Typically, athletes feel a sudden popping sensation, immediate loss of power in that leg, or difficulty or inability to actively strain the knee, including some rapid swelling around that knee. So we take a specific look at the anatomy behind this type of injury to understand the knee's extensor mechanism, which consists of four primary structures. We have our quadricep muscle group, which is seen right here. We have your rectus femoris seen in the front, with your vastus medialis seen more medially, your vastus lateralis seen laterally, and then behind the rectus femoris, we have our vastus intermedius seen right here. Then we have our quadricep tendon seen right here. All four muscles do come and make up this tendon, which then go and attach to that patella, which helps with movement. And then finally, we do have our patellar tendon, which connects that patella to the tibial tubercle seen right here. So as we're seeing the quadricep contract, specifically when that leg strains and makes an extension movement, we take a look at that patellar tendon, and that tendon is moving through the trochlear groove, which is between both the femur and that tibia. With this mechanism intact, this allows us to be able to move our leg freely and allows us to do certain movements that would be very difficult if it was altered. This picture shows a good representation of how the mechanism did fail on Moses Moody and basically the aftermath of this type of injury. So when that patellar tendon did rupture, that quadricep can no longer transmit force to that tibia and the athlete cannot actively extend that knee. That patella may shift upwards as it did seen right here, or more superiorly. It's no longer now anchored to the tibia seen here. If we're taking a look at this knee, you can see that patella is definitely displaced more superiorly as it's kind of displaced more towards that femur than instead of being inside this trochlear groove where it should be and should be tracking. So for a complete patellar tendon rupture, almost always requires surgery, particularly for a high-level athlete, and that's exactly what Moses Moody will be undergoing very soon. So the goal of this surgery is to reattach that torn tendon to the patella and restore the extensor mechanism. So that typical surgical repair typically involves three main things: the reattachment of the tendon, the reinforcement of the repair, as well as the restoration of patellar height. The typical recovery timeline for an NBA player, especially an average, is about 9 to 12 months. There have been some cases where players have come back earlier, like in maybe 6 months. However, there have been more cases where players have not been able to come back maybe in like 18 months. So for an NBA player like Moody, rehabilitation must also focus on restoring that explosive jumping ability, lateral defensive movements, as well as single leg strength and stability. All in all, a patellar tendon rupture is a major injury to the knee's extensor mechanism, it directly impacting an athlete's ability to generate power through that leg. So without surgical repair, the knee cannot properly extend or support explosive movement. With modern surgical techniques and structured rehabilitation, many athletes are able to return to a high-level competition, but the recovery does require months of progressive strengthening and careful load management. For Moses Moody, the key to a successful return will be restoring full quadricep strength, jumping power, and knee stability so he can safely return to NBA level play. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a little bit about Moses Moody's injury. Let me know if you have any questions or comments down below, and thank you so much for watching.